Miguel Togra from Porto, Portugal, and Professor Susana Sousa Machado, Institute of Political de Porto, Portugal. So they are the our session chair and giving the comments to Dr. Kamal. Dr. Kamal, he is from University of Moratuwa in Information Technology Department. So he will be presenting the paper. Dr. Kamal?
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Priyankara. Shall I start?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, professors, for joining this presentation. So actually, this is a research that I'm continuing after my PhD. So my PhD area was, I was working in the area of anthropomorphism, especially in the area of social robotics. In social robotics, right now, in the world, we try to go towards this humanoid robot side. For instance, like, last month we saw that even Elon Musk, he came up with this humanoid kind of robot concepts, and they are really going for these, market these kind of products. But the problem is the technology is not really there to make believable movements for these robots. Like, for instance, the walking. It was not really present to see how these robots move. I have a little, video clip here as well. As you can see, these movements are not really believable. Elon. And also not only about these movements, but in researchers, so right now we have lot of experiments are going on to make real look like humans. For instance, in this examples, we try to not the movements, but to make like real humans, make these eyelids work.
Robot,
Kind of realistic. We try to do it.
modeled after the famed physicist, can track your eye movement.
And the issue is, there was another relationship that have identified Japanese professor quite long time ago, like 20, 30 years ago. So it is the relationship between, our familiarity towards these kind of moving objects with the human likeness. For instance, as you can see in this graph, it starts with this industrial kind of a robot. We also, like to look at these machineries, things with, moving mechanism. We enjoy those things. For instance, like convertible cars. So those kind of effects are there that we really like to engage, to look, have a look. But when it comes to prosthetics, like, these kind of, zombies kind of artifacts, so those things are not really perceived as quite familiar. We don't like to see those things. For instance, a prosthetic arm, it's not really pleasing to look, but looks like human. Maybe the skin and everything is quite like, human. They have made it like that, but still, it is not really healthy persons, like a normal, natural, healthy, working person. It's different. So there are subtle differences. But because of those differences, those interactions are not really pleasing. So that is the task even right now, even this Elon Musk is facing, because we expect from those robots these believable human-like movements, but still the technology is not quite there yet. So because of that, so another kind of research, robotic research, especially in this social robots area. So we are working on the not really humanoid robots, but abstract. Abstract shapes, forms in motion can also communicate this socio-emotional information. For instance, this is a really old animation clip. So there was a sensible straight line. So in that animation, so they have used only this line and a board to express various kinds of emotions with these movements.
The hub, the core and the quintessence detail that tenderly. But the frivolous Dot wasn't a bit interested, for she only...
Yeah, just an example. So likewise, there's another researcher. So right now, actually, this is my favorite researcher right now. He's working at the MIT Media Lab, Professor Guy Hoffman, and he's working really well in this area. So he has come up with this. It's kind of a robot, and also it's a speaker box. And he has come up with some movements. It looks like not really like humanoid, but still it moves. It moves like, it is having really humanoid kind of movements. So it's moving for music. I'm not really sure whether you can hear those music, but foot is tapping and subtle movements are there, not really geometric or abstract movements, quite like really humanized movements. So likewise, there is another phenomenon called anthropomorphism. It's like, for these moving kind of things, really for non-human, artificial things, we like to ascribe human characteristics, human nature into it. For instance, in the last example, the foot was tapping. And this is not a foot, but still I'm saying that the foot was tapping. So likewise, we tend to, like as human beings, we tend to ascribe human kind of this character into non-human objects. So that is called the anthropomorphism. So I use this concept even in my PhD research as well. So what I did was in that research, so I was trying to create animations. For instance, in here, these are some of the works that I have did for my PhD. It's like a really abstract form. The cube is it is in the really abstract level, not really humanoid. So there are no face or anything. It's just a cube. But I was trying to animate it in a way that these cubes express 6 different human basic emotions. For instance, I created all of these, emotions, 6 basic emotions from the Paul Ekman's that, discrete emotion, that theory. Then after that, I asked just people to recognize what are these emotions. And the study was really well, and people were able to identify, what are these emotions and all. So in this research, in the current research, I just picked only 2 emotions in here. So happiness and the sadness, only 2 emotions are there. So what I did was in this example, like in the previous one, I didn't have the voice modality, the human voice. In here, right now we have a lot of computer mediated communication. For instance, we use, like for instance, the mobile phone we use to communicate with each other. But right now with this advancements of ChatGPT and also Google Home, Alexa, and there are lots of mediated communications are happening right now. So we use artifacts. For instance, in Google Home, it is just a cylindric form. It's a cylindric form, and it can mediate human to human communication. And also, if we use these kind of social robot, these kind of artifacts in, like for instance, at the reception of a hotel, and people can communicate with these objects. Right now, so sometimes we use avatars, like animations of human beings to mimic this is a human being, that's a receptionist, likewise. But in this example, I was just thinking, why can't we go ahead with this kind of a social robot? So it is not a robot, it is still an animation, like like a virtual manifestation of a robot form, but in a really abstract level. But in here, in this current study, what I did was, like, I was like individually invited people, and in the same times, I was playing a voice clip. For instance, in here, only 2 emotions were there. The first one was happiness. So in the happiness, so I played, I use a text to read software just to eradicate all the emotion level communication from those things, because, we can use intonation, pauses while we talk to communicate, non-verbal, emotional information. So I remove all of these things and just stayed with only just saying, I'm happy. In the other example, I'm sad. So I'm sad. So it is in the background, we can hear these voices. And at the same time, in the foreground, we can see like individually these movements. Like this first one is in here, you can see in the left-hand side, that's the sadness, the movement that I created for sadness. The other one is for the happiness. So I asked individual like participants to recognize them. The first, without even voice, they were able to recognize, because these animations were quite proven during my PhD study. They can communicate these basic emotions, but with the voice, so they were really well. They were recognized it quite well. That accuracy was quite good, but most importantly, so they were able to recognize the intensities of emotions as well. It is like, for instance, how happy I am and how sad I am. So all the two modalities, for instance, in here, visual modality and at the same time, the voice-based interaction. So those two modalities were complementing to each other to communicate the strength of, like, intensity of the emotion quite well. So that is the small study that I did. So right now I'm working with this the physical model. So this is just a animation that I created using Maya and also Unity. But here I have started to make it really physical. So make it really physical and do the same kind of animation in the physical form, because still we can't really say that it is not in the physical environment. It is still in the virtual environment. So I try to bring it to the physical world and play with these voice clips and just have a look. If we combine these two modalities, can we really communicate this socio-emotional information well? So if it is right, then hopefully, so instead of going after this humanoid, really complex technological stuff, we can easily use it for everyday human interactions. That is the plan. So then after that, I was working with, so right now this research is about the voice, but with the color. So that is the next step that I'm planning to do. It's like, can we use different colors? For instance, we like when we look at red color, we think that it is like, quite, the fear is there. Quite afraid to do it. It's a red light. Even in traffic light, when we see red light, we straight away stop. So likewise, to amplify this socio-emotional information, like maybe probably we can use voice, as we have seen in this research, but in the same time, can't we use color and lighting? Probably that could be another avenue that we can amplify, this socio-emotional information. That is the next part that I'm going to go ahead with after creating this physical robot. Actually, that's the study that I did. So to evaluate the study, I use this self evaluation method, like developed by quite long time ago, quite 3 decades ago. It's like, emotions. When it comes to human emotions, a researcher has come up with, we have different affect dimensions when it comes to emotions. For instance, the first one is the valence. Valence means how happy we feel about ourselves. So that is the first human. This as you can see, the smile is there. So I ask people to recognize. So this is the way that I captured the intensity of their emotion. How sad they are, how happy they are. That is the valence dimension. The second one is how like the dominance. It's like, emotionally we feel that how activate we are so when it comes to happiness, we can feel our heart beats quite well, inside. The intensity is quite, high. Even not only sadness, when we feel happiness, like sadness, not only happiness, sadness, we can feel that our, heart like breaks. So likewise, so there are three these kind of continuums are there when it comes to self-evaluation of emotions, the felt emotions. But in this study, I didn't go to the third one. There were only two dimensions that I was looking at. So that's the way people, evaluated their own feeling of emotions. Then after that, these are the stimuli that I created. As I told you, there were only two emotions, happiness and sadness, and there were two, like the first one is only the animation, because that's the control condition, only the animation. Then after that, animation with voice. That's the stimulus 2, 3, and 4, 5. It is about the sadness. So I created these stimulus, and this played in a virtual platform. I asked like individually. Using like a snowballing technique, I passed a link to all of my participants, and they just fill it by looking at online Google survey, and this one was the recognition rate. So they can recognize, as I told you, these are like part of my PhD study. So there is a higher recognition rate. Out of 20 participants, they were recognizing it quite well. There were no any issues with this recognition. Somehow they were recognized, but most importantly, so they were ascribing the intensities of emotion. We can communicate like the level of the emotion that I feel, like how sad I am, how happy I am with the usage of two modalities. Oh, yes, Professor, those are my findings, and this is the next step as I shown you. So these are right now I'm working with this physical manifestation of this robot, just to make it really a robot, like physical cube that is not in the humanoid side, but totally different from the human form, just a cube, abstract form, and can it move to express happiness, sadness, and other emotions. And that's the end of my presentation, I guess. Hope you could understand it well. Some of the references are here. Thank you. Hello, Professor.
Thank you, Dr. Kamal. Dr. Julio, and Professor Susana, you have any comments or anything to talk
Yes,
with you?
yes, yes. Shall I begin? So first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity to make here some comments and to take part of this discussion. And congratulations to Mr. Wasala for this research.
Thank you, Professor.
And I think that this article is a relevant and insightful study on how expressive movements of non-humanoid social robots can enhance voice-based emotional interactions. And the choice of an abstract cubic form is particularly significant, in my opinion, as it avoids the complexities of humanoid representations while at the same time exploring anthropomorphism in a more flexible and open-ended manner. And I also should say that by focusing on the emotions of happiness and sadness, the study effectively demonstrates that robots' movements amplify the observed intensity and recognition of emotions conveyed through voice, aligning with media compensation theory, which, in my opinion, and I agree with you, that emphasizes the importance of nonverbal cues in human communications. However, to make here some discussion, and as I said, it's a very relevant study, but to highlight here some points for discussion, I think that the study has a notable methodological questions that warrant discussion. And the sample size of only 20 participants, recruited through snowball sampling, limits the generalizability of the findings. And the lack of participants screening criteria further restricts analysis of demographic or cultural factors, which could influence emotion interpretation. Additionally, the study focuses on just two emotions, which raises questions about its applicability to more complex emotional states, such as fear. But this is a point of discussion or to think about it for the future. And another critical point concerns to robots' form factor. While the cubic design simplifies the experimental conditions. And it is worth questioning whether more dynamic or intricate geometrics could enhance the robot's emotional expressive. Furthermore, the interaction between movement and voice prompts discussion regarding the neutrality of the voice stimuli as tone alone might influence emotional perception, regardless the robot's movements. Finally, just to finish my comments, the article highlights very promising practical applications of non-humanoid robots, such as healthcare or education. However, the strengths, the findings, future research should expand the sample size. For future research, I recommend you to expand the sample size and explore a broader range of emotions and investigate in integration of multiple interaction modalities. But overall, I think that the research offers a valuable contribution to the field of non-humanoid interaction and opens significant pathways for the future exploration. So congratulations.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to make some comments to my questions or we should
No,
go.
Professor, actually, it is, I agree with that. In here, only basic two emotions, just to start, it's kind of a pilot run that I, made because two modalities in a really primitive way. So I think right now it's a good start. I feel it's a really good start to go ahead with other complex emotions. Why basic? What about complex emotions? For instance, the surprise with fear. So is it really, these kind of animoids can communicate those kind of really complex socio-emotional information? I think we can continue the research because we have a green light right now. Probably we can
Yes, of
continue.
course, for future work.
Yes, Professor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And especially the sample size is a small sample size. I agree with that. So it's not really generalizable.
Yes.
True. Thank you, Professor. Thank you for those valuable comments.
Thank you. I don't know if my colleague wants to.
Dr. Julio?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to participate in this discussion, and congratulations to Dr. Kamal Wasala.
Thank you, Professor.
I have some questions and considerations to ask you. Okay. And the study presented explored the ability of the abstract to the non-humanoid social robots to augment voice-based emotional interactions through the expressive movements. By addressing both emotional recognition and the intensity of the research raises critical questions on human-robot interactions. HRI, and the application of anthropomorphism in non-humanoid designs. While the findings are exciting severe areas, merit further discussion and critical examination. The Professor Susanna already mentioned the 20 participants, and I think it's it's better could be more than the 20. But okay, I you were already said, but um, I have one more question. Um, the study used the cubic abstract form for the robot. While abstract shapes can reduce the preconceived biases, do you believe that the form factor limits expressiveness compared to more dynamic shapes? For example, spheres or articulated designs?
Yes, Professor. Actually, I did an experiment with sphere. So sphere means it is quite closer to organic forms. So when it comes to rectangles and cubes, it is go away from this nature. Like in nature, we don't have these 90-degree angles. So in this study, I'm still trying to prove that non-humanoids, non-natural forms can have a lot of capabilities. So, and also it is like technically feasible. So that's why I straight away, going in this cubic kind of forms. Still just to prove my the PhD research.
Okay. Could there be a trade-off between simplicity in form and the richness of emotional expression? For instance, while the abstract forms offer design flexibility,
Mm.
does their minimalism risk oversampling human emotional interpretation?
Mm. Yeah, that's right, Professor. I agree with that. Even like my idea is like if we can prove that even this really most abstract forms even can communicate a certain level of socio-emotional information, that means we can go ahead with some human kind of forms when it comes to product designs. So it is obvious that we can do it. So this is a proof that the primitive level, like we try to prove it. So then after that we can apply, because right now we are making humanoid robots. So of course we can improve those robots movements as well. So the idea is just to prove that extreme ends, even those robots can communicate socio-emotional information, not to make a product like that, but just to explore.
Okay. Um, and how significant is cultural variability in shaping anthropomorphic responses? For instance, will the participants from cultures with stronger animistic traditions or varying degrees or technological familiarity preserve the robot differently?
Yeah, you mean like culturally, there is an effect, right? So as you
Yes.
say, like cultural effect when it comes to robot. Professor, here I'm trying to do is like, for any person, it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter what's the country, what doesn't matter the background, but there are objects are moving. And also we can see those objects have happiness or sadness kind of movements. So that's the only goal that I have. It doesn't matter when I don't really care about culture or anything. Can these movements evoke emotions? So that's the research actually.
Mhm. Okay. Could these findings inform and development of multimodal interaction systems that integrate both voice and movement for better user engagement? How might the addition of light, color, or sound further enhance an emotional communication?
I think there is a huge potential, Professor. That's why my next step is adding this color and other kind of modalities. Even here, we don't have haptics, the touch. So there are other modalities, and those modalities are like we evolve with those modalities as human beings throughout these ages, So likewise, why can't we use those things to make really humanoid kind of interactions with people? So that's why, like one by one, I'm trying to explore. It started with movements, then light, then sound, all the modalities. If we can like make them complement to each other, I think we can, communicate emotion, these kind of social emotional information quite well. That's the hypothesis that I'm having in my mind. So the research continues.
Mhm. Okay. And I have some suggestions for further research. In future research could explore the synergy of multiple modalities. For example, facial expressions, vocal tones, body movements, and how do we imagine such a multimodal approach shaping the future in the HRI?
Yeah, Professor, I mean, like even right now, the virtual world, VR. So there are a lot of like, even Mark Zuckerberg, he's working that to make real physical like virtual worlds. I
Yes.
think there are lots of spaces that even we can move these kind of findings to that space. So we are quite limited with this physical space, but if we can come up with even right now, I have another research. I'm working with another student, so that is to introduce tangibility into the VR world. So likewise, I'm just thinking all of these things can augment this VR space, multimodal in a multimodal way. To right now, it's like we are just alone inside these virtual worlds. We can't even see our hands. But there are like tactile, those kind of things are not there actually at the moment right now. So I think all of these multimodal model things can go into that VR space and come up with a better modality to communicate. I think mediate human to human and also human robot interactions, I guess.
Mhm. Okay. For conclusion, I have in summary, this study presents a novel exploration into the role of movement in augmenting emotional voice-based interactions with abstract non-humanoid robots. While the findings are promising, further research is necessary to address methodological constraints, emotional complexity, and cultural variability. The discussion invites deeper examination into the balance between the abstract minimalism and the emotional richness, as well as the potential real-world applications on research in humanoid-centric domains. I have congratulations one more time to Dr. Kamal Wasala. I hope
Thank you for
you have everything.
yeah, both of your comments are quite, quite helpful to develop the research. And definitely, I'm going to consider these things. And hopefully, next year, maybe I can come up with another kind of a research. Thank you so much for these valuable comments.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Susana and Dr. Julio to join with these comments and sharing your thought with Dr. Kamal Wasala. So we hope you get some from your paper. They offer valuable things for your future things. So we will expect to join you in physically in future event in Lisbon because now we are expecting to do some conference here. So we'll be meet you in at least next year. So plan to come to here and then we can meet and all the people. So thank you very much for making your
Thank
valuable
you
time
so
with
much.
us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for making this happen. Thank you so much. Really appreciate.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much for the invitation, and please feel free to invite me as many times as you want. It's a great pleasure for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.